Hey guys, this is Lalana. Thanks for tuning into the Sovereign Path. I just want to say thank you so much to all of my new subscribers. The channel kind of went crazy over the last 48 hours, so I appreciate you guys. Welcome, glad to have you here. So today we're going to talk about, and this is actually coming from several questions that I've had, and I'm like, as I said before, I'm going to do my best to answer your questions in video format. It's hard for me to answer that many questions in the comments, and a lot of the questions are more nuanced than a couple sentences, so I'll do my best to get through all the questions that you guys have in the videos. So you can just continue to leave them in the comments below. I read all of your comments, guys, and I really appreciate where you guys are and the whole thing. Like, I get it, I've been on this path as well for a long time. So this question is coming from a few different viewers, and it's basically this idea that we have that, and it happens during definitely the beginning phases of this journey for sure, but also in the midway point, you know, when we're still kind of grappling with what's actually going on. We're going through the throes of the dark night of the soul, you know, the ego is crumbling and all of these sort of things, and we just want to move on, and a lot of times we just want to forget the twin, right? If I could just forget them, if I could just get them out of my head, if I could just move on, right, with a soulmate, you know, why can't I do this? Or why is it that as soon as I feel like I've gotten into like a peaceful place and I'm not thinking about them as much and everything seems to calm down, then the numbers start going crazy, or then I start seeing their name, you know, on license plates everywhere, or, you know, suddenly I have like the same bird keeps showing up, you know, every morning in the same place. And so we start noticing all of these signs, right? The universe getting your attention. This is actually your higher self doing that. And you and your twin have one higher self. So you can't forget your twin. And even the idea of that is coming from the ego conditioning that is saying, I need to get a grapple on this thing, right? I need to figure out what this is. I need to hold on to this and tamp it down so that I can be in control, right? This is what the ego does. It's a control and a defense mechanism. And so when the ego feels like it doesn't understand anything, it doesn't have a handle on something, then its first, like, you know, like inclination, it's just like an automatic, right? This is the default system of the ego, is to try to figure out a way to control the situation. And so that gets translated through the mind as saying, if I can just forget about them, if I can just move on, if I can just get over this, blah, 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 then we're translating that, right? We're perceiving that through the mind as saying, then I'll be able to control this. Then I'll be able to control my emotion. Then I'll be able to just move on and have a normal life, you know, all of those sort of things. And so just the awareness that that is where this is coming from. It's coming from the ego mechanism of wanting to figure this out and wanting to control it. And the reason why when we're in that place of feeling like, okay, good, you know, this is finally like kind of calming down in the beginning stages, in the middle stages, and we feel like, yeah, I just want to move on, and I just want it gone, and then suddenly, yeah, the signs start coming. Like, anybody who is experiencing a true twin flame path will have experienced this, or you will experience this at some point. Basically, we have to remember, one, no, you can't get over them. No, you can't get, you know, just forget about them. No, you can't just move on, because this is your consciousness. This is your soul, right? That's the thing. And it's one of those avenues on this channel that I will continue to drive home. And I know that we, as the mind, we perceive ourselves as the mind and the emotion, but we are not that. But until we get a handle on the fact that we are not that, the mind is still going to try to convince you of things that it doesn't understand. And so again, this is a way of the mind trying to get a handle on what's going on. But this is your spiritual awakening, right? This is you shifting out of a lower vibratory dimension, a lower vibratory frequency of separation and lack and fear and all of these things back into your actual true vibratory state as an energetic being. And so you can't outrun this path once you're on it, and you can't outrun your twin, because the twin is you. I'm going to do another video on that. Someone asked me to explain, what do you mean when you say the twin is you? The twin is your soul, right? You are experiencing, your soul, you as a soul, is experiencing itself in 2 incarnations. That's what's happening. So you as consciousness is experiencing itself twice in order to awaken yourself out of the 3D programmings of separation, lack, duality, fear, polarization, karma, trauma, all of those things, right? This is the point of the ascension. And this is why when we start feeling like, I just want to outrun this, I just want to forget about them, I just want to get them, off my mind, I just want to blah, 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 and the signs come in and the synchronicities come in, is because this is the soul saying, that's not the point of this path. You have been activated to go through a spiritual awakening. That's why you incarnated here, right? And so I've said this in a lot of my videos as well. If you are a true twin flame and you are on a true twin flame path, then you are going through a spiritual awakening. That's just what it is. This is an ascension path. That's just what it is. And it's not like you came into this lifetime and were like, oh, okay, well, I guess I'll go through an awakening now. You planned this before you incarnated here, right? You knew as a soul that this is what you were going to experience in this lifetime. And I've said before, everyone in your soul family is helping to orchestrate all of this, right? So your karmic situations, your soulmate situations, all of your soul family have certain roles to play within the path that you have chosen in this lifetime to awaken. So whether those people are coming through your life and we're viewing that as negative or we're viewing that as positive, they are still having roles to play in regard to your soul's growth, your soul's expansion, and you going through the ascension process, right? And so this isn't a matter of the mind or the ego deciding, I don't want to do this anymore. And if I can just get them out of my head, if I can just move on, if I can just do all of these things, then I'm going to be fine. It's the defense mechanism of you that is trying to control this, that is trying to say, I don't like this anymore, this is uncomfortable, I don't understand this, I don't want to see any triggers come up, I don't want the divine masculine to trigger things or to reflect things back to me that I don't want to see. All of this is the defense mechanism saying, I want to forget them, I want to get them out of my head, I want to run away from this, I don't want to deal with this, is this even real? I must be in crazy la-la land. Nobody understands what I'm even talking about when I'm saying that I'm a twin flame, and people are starting to think I'm crazy. My life is starting to shift around and fall apart, and everything feels weird and off, and I don't really know how to even communicate what's going on, right? All of these things are part of ascension. They're all part of ascension, and they're all part of the ego starting to break down. And so when the ego starts to break down on this path, it starts to panic. And one of the things it does as it starts to panic, it starts grabbing onto things and trying to control it. And one of those ways of trying to control it is saying, why can't I forget about them? I just want to get them out of my head. I just want to move on. I just want to date a soulmate. I just want to get on with my life. I just want my life to be like it used to be, etc., etc., etc. And so the soul, who is you, is going to come in and show you that same bird over and over again in that same tree when you walk out of your house to go to work every morning, right? The soul that is you is going to show you your twin flame's name, or 111 and 333 and 555 and 222 and all of these things, or certain songs are going to pop into your head, or certain lyrics are going to pop into your head out of nowhere, or you're just going to feel this energetic rush out of nowhere that is going to remind you of your twin. Why is this happening? Because you are on the ascension path now. And it's happening because your soul is saying, hey, you don't actually have the free will from the ego lens and the mind lens that you think you do in regard to the ascension process. And so the soul is showing you No, you can't outrun it. No, you can't forget it. No, I'm going to continue to remind you of this because this is the path that we are walking in this lifetime, right? So beyond that, the soul who is you is also your twin. So this is the thing here. So saying like, I want to forget about them is saying, I want to forget my soul. Saying I don't want to think about, I don't want to have this in my head anymore, I don't want to have reminders of this, is saying I don't want to have my soul in my mind, right? I don't want to be having to think about my own soul. And that even sounds crazy to even say that. It's probably not the right verbiage. But what we're doing when we're trying to outrun it, when the ego is trying to outrun it, and basically this is an escape hatch that the ego has, right? Regardless of whether you're a twin or not, the ego has these escape hatches of trying to run in different directions because it feels uncomfortable and out of control. This is just another one of those escape hatches. But you can't outrun yourself. You can't outrun your soul, right? You can't get over your soul. You can't just ignore your soul. You can't just forget about your soul. And that's the thing about this path. And that's what you're dealing with here. Your divine masculine is you incarnate in another body. One soul, two bodies. That's just what it is. And I know that sounds nutsoville to the mind, and that the ego is just doing everything it can to get a handle on this thing. And that's why I say this is not about the mind, it's not about the emotion, and it's not about the ego. It's about energy, right? This is about you as energy. This is about you as consciousness. This is why on this path, surrender is such a massive, massive part of it. Because surrender is coming out of resistance, right? It's trusting the process. It's recognizing that I am a soul having an experience in separation and the 3D with my same soul who is assisting me to go through this awakening process, right? That's why I keep saying we have to start flipping this whole thing on its head, because we're used to seeing everything through the mind and through the ego. But this path, and that's all based in separation, right? And all of the things in the 3D that we've come here to experience as a soul. It's not that any of that's bad. We have come here to experience that as a soul. But once you're set on the awakening path, then you don't need to continue to experience these things over and over and over again, right? You've had the growth that the soul came here to experience in separation consciousness and in fear-based energies, all of these things. Now, as you're ascending back into a fifth dimensional frequency of unity and harmony and oneness, right? That's what this ascension process is doing. And so the ego is trying to keep you in that separation consciousness because the ego runs on fear mechanisms. It runs on defenses. That's what it does. And it has served us well during that process that we have come into the 3D and the physical reality for however many lifetimes to have those experiences and those soul growth, right? It served us well. But if you're going through the ascension process, then that means that separation consciousness that the ego has been running on is going to start to fail. This is what the dark night of the soul is. This is what ego death is. And this is what causes these panic mechanisms of wanting to outrun it, right? And wanting to forget about them and wanting to move on. It's because the ego can't grapple with this. And so when the ego starts panicking, the soul is going to come in to show you, hey, I got you. That's what all those signs are about. I got you. You're okay. You're not flying off in, alone land here trying to do this on your own, right? I keep saying that. You're not alone. It feels like you're alone. I get it. It feels like you're alone, but your entire soul family incarnated with you to do this, right? You have an entire army supporting you here. It's just that you can't see that, right? And so this is when we're talking about coming into that surrender place and recognizing, okay, the ego is trying to fight its way out of this and do all of these things, and the ego doesn't want to like face any of the triggers that are coming up, or the triggers are too overwhelming, or I've faced too many of them, and my God, how many more triggers can there possibly be? Or I've done like all this work and I'm still like going round and round, and what's the deal, and I'm still in separation, and blah, 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 right? All of those things that is feeling like I'm feeling exhausted, this is taking too long. So whatever camp that you're in, depending on what stage is going on, is just the ego breaking down. That's what it is. It's just the ego breaking down. And we need to recognize that, because yeah, it's uncomfortable. It's really damn uncomfortable, because everything that we have been identifying with and defining and labeling ourselves as and aligning to and all of those sort of things, it starts breaking, you know. And when these things start breaking and we're seeing the twin as the cause of this, because we're not yet close enough to inner union that we start to understand that that's actually your greatest gift. But when you're still seeing the twin as the cause of this, or when we're still running those patterns and programs, right, based on separation and all of these things, then, you know, it feels super uncomfortable. And so it's natural to want to get out from under it and to want to, like, you know, ignore them, or feel like, you know, as soon as I get over this, it's going to be fine, or, you know, all of those things, because all of that stuff worked in other relationships in the past, right? All of that stuff worked. You get over somebody, you date somebody else, you move on. It works, right? I don't want to think about you. Well, then I'm just not going to, and I'm going to do my own thing. The twin flame isn't like that, because everyone else that you've dealt with in the past were not your same consciousness. They weren't your same soul. Soul family members are not your same soul. They are not your same energetic frequency. The twin is. So yeah, you're going to feel their energy because it's your energy, right? Yes, you're going to sometimes pick up on the thoughts because you share a consciousness, which means you share thoughts, right? This is one energetic system. This is one energetic blueprint experiencing itself in two people. That's basically what it is. That's what we're looking at. And so the soul who is you is always going to come in and show you the signs and the synchronicities and whatever else, however your higher self communicates with you. It's different for everybody. It's going to come in all the time when we're in those doubting places, when we're feeling like we're going crazyville and la la land, and is this even real, and I'm starting to doubt this whole thing, and I just wish it would stop, and blah blah blah, right? So we see that as, damn it, I thought I was doing well, I was ready to move on, I wasn't really thinking about them that much, and then all the signs came back. What's the deal? Why is all? It's not to drive you crazy, although it feels like that, right? Because the mind translates it that way. It's really the soul showing you, okay, this is what we're doing. You can't get off the journey once you're on, right? You actually decided this before you came in here. It's just your mind that's tripping out. But besides that, it's also saying, like I said, I got you, right? Your soul is not going to let you fall, right? Your soul knows how much you can handle. It knows how much you can take. And it's going to throw you into separation periods. If you haven't watched my Do You Need to Detox video, you guys can watch that. It's going to throw you into separation periods, which is the built-in detox of this path that your soul is guiding when you need those breaks, right? It's not going to push you past the point of no return, right? It's going to push you because it knows how much you can take. But it's not going to allow you to get off the path, right? This is the path, this is the path, this is the path, this is the path. We can make it harder or we can make it easier. It just depends on how much resistance we are bringing into this, our own inner world, basically, right? And I've said before, this is a you and you path. And we like to push it out on the masculine and all of those sort of things, and they play an extremely important role. But at the end of the day, this is still you, because you and your masculine are one. This is just one system, right? And so hopefully that makes more sense when we're talking about, you know, I just want to forget them, or why can't I move on, and all of these things. And, you know, it's because this is the path that you're on, right? So I'm going to get into other videos later in regard to like dating, soulmates or high vibrational soulmates. I'll do another video because I know a lot of people have questions about that. Can you do that eventually? And in short, sure you can. But that's going to be something that comes when you come into inner union and you're actually in balance and you're in balance of mind, right? Until you're in inner union, then like anything else within this path that is trying to like escape into another relationship or go down another like path or another rabbit hole or whatever else is usually coming from the ego mechanism of wanting to escape, right? Of wanting to run and all of these sort of things. It's basically saying that I just don't want to face the self, and so wanting to ignore the twin as well and wanting to like, get away from them and all of those sort of things. Although it's normal for the ego to want to do that on this path, it's basically saying, I don't want to face what's coming up for me. I don't want to go through the ascension process. I don't want to go through, I don't want to go through awakening. It's uncomfortable and it's hard. And so I'm going to just try not to. I'm just going to try to avoid it. And so, yeah, your soul's going to come in and say, no, sorry, because we already decided to do this in this incarnation. You've had what you needed, right, in the 3D. That's the thing, and I need to keep driving that home, and I hope that more people start resonating with that. It's because you've already had the experiences for however many lifetimes that your soul needed for its growth and an expansion, right? And so your soul doesn't need to continue to have the same experiences in separation anymore. That's it. Like your soul has expanded enough as it needed to expand, having those experiences of lack and separation and fear. Now your soul, which that's what it does, it expands, it grows. That's what the soul wants, is growth and expansion. Now it wants that growth and expansion in the 5th dimensional frequency, experiencing a physical reality, right? So your soul now is looking to drop all of this stuff in separation and to come into unity and to experience unity in the physical realm, right? That's what ascension is on earth. That's what we're doing here. And so we grip so hard onto all of these past programmings because they feel safe to us, because that's all we've ever known. And so the ego wants to continue to grip onto that. But the ego gripping onto that is actually what's causing more suffering. And it's causing you to stay stuck and in those loops and for things to feel like they're going on forever. And I've been doing the work or why am I not getting anywhere, right? It's because there's still so much resistance involved, right? And it takes a long time for us to stop resisting. But as I've said in I think almost every one of my videos, I promise you guys, I've been where you are. I know what it is. I know what it is, right? And I fought this thing tooth and nail for a long time, and I refused to surrender, and I refused to give up the resistance, and I refused to fight, or I refused to stop fighting it, right? For years. So, I get it. I fully get it. That's why I make these videos. But the thing is I promise you, once you stop doing that and you really get on board with the fact that this is your awakening and your ascension, and you start to surrender to the fact that your soul has you, I promise you, when you get towards inner union, you are going to feel better than you've ever felt in your whole life. All of these other things are what's keeping that negative, low density vibration and doubts and questions alive, right? And this is why it gets harder, because your soul is saying, no, we can't keep experiencing this over and over again, right? And the soul's like, well, if you have to, okay, we'll do it again. Okay, we'll do it again. And so the soul is just showing you, you see how uncomfortable this is if we keep doing this? Okay, you see how uncomfortable this is? Just let go, right? And so all the signs are coming in saying, we got you, right? The higher self has got you. Source has got you. Consciousness has got you. Nothing here on this path is out of alignment. It's all perfectly guided and perfectly orchestrated. And you are perfectly held. You are perfectly loved, right? And I know it doesn't feel like that, especially in the beginning and the midway stages. I understand that. But I promise you, that's what this is. And so when you're feeling you just want to give up and run and throw in the towel, just remember, I chose this as a soul, and maybe I don't understand it as my ego or as my mind, but I do trust my soul. I do trust my soul. And so I'm just gonna go with it, right? Just gonna go with it. I'm just gonna trust it because I know that my soul, who is me at a higher octave, is not going to let me down and is not going to let me fall. And I know because I keep hearing that when I get into inner union, that this is going to be a harmonious fifth dimensional frequency state that is going to feel like freedom. It's going to feel like unconditional love. It's going to feel like all of these things that Lalana keeps telling me as soon as I get there, right? Because that's what's happening. That's what ascension is. Does it end at inner union? No. And I'm going to do a video on that, right? It doesn't end at inner union. Your consciousness will continue to expand, right? But once you're at inner union, you have shifted out of the third dimensional frequency of fear and lack vibration. And you have shifted into the fifth dimensional frequency of oneness, harmony, unconditional love, freedom, and all of those things. That's what ascension is. That's what you're doing, right? That's the point that you incarnated. That's why you're a twin flame having this experience now, right? You're shifting back up, right? You descended to have this experience and now you're ascending out of it because you've had everything that you need from that experience as a soul. So I hope that that makes sense, you guys. Yeah, thanks to all my new subscribers. Crazy. Love you guys. You have an awesome day.